we've got Alutemu and Glory coming right up in match number 1 of the day. And this is a mirror match in almost every single aspect of the word.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
We sometimes see this in regions where you have two players from the same country, where they have card for card same lineups. It happens, I believe, a lot in the European region. We saw it once from Bunny Hopper and Viper, where they had identical lineups, as they are very famous practice partners together. And I would have to imagine, despite not having confirmation from the players, that this is the same thing. It's pretty unlikely that players would land on 100% same card lineups for both players.
Yeah, and for me, it definitely feels more weird because it's not like they didn't know they would be playing each other.
Right.
And so weird already. They've got card for card, same lineup,
Different
but the
bands.
bands are different.
So
Alutemu's Priest is gone. We just saw these bands out. And then the Warrior is the Shield. And then Glory's Priest is shielded and his Warrior is banned. So interesting is like basically opposite ways to approach the matchup in terms of what to shield, and then that affects the ban the other way.
Yeah.
So maybe the theory is there for what to ban, but not the actual decision making into how do I explain this? They definitely agree on if X is shielded, you ban Y. But it's just deciding what X is, right? What that shield actually is. So that, you know, they are agreeing not only in lineup, but in also strategy. Just strange that that one point they've gone off kilter a little bit, and Glory has gone for a different shield than Alutemu. What do you make? Who do you think's got the edge then? Because it is a mirror.
Yeah.
But the decks are different now. That's
what I'm trying to figure out here. It's super interesting because it factors in also what your opinion of the matchup is. Because the traditional thinking with Priest versus Warrior, for example, if we just put the two decks head to head, is I would say that Warrior is favored. It has enough removal to kill off everything the Priest is throwing down. The nerf to extra arms means they're a little bit slower to get going as well. But, you know, Hunter Ace, after his 2-0 victory this week in Hearthstone Grandmasters, where he brought a very similar build of the Priest, was saying he thinks he's favored versus literally everything, including the Warrior. He still thinks he's got a good matchup there.
So I was watching Hunter Ace's stream the other day, and I have no doubt he thinks that, because honestly, for about 6 games straight, he just god drew someone. Just god drew every turn. Even to the extent I think Fino was in there. And like game 6, Hunter Ace had nothing to do on a turn and was a bad draw. And oh, you can't believe this draw. And Fino's like, Casper. You've just nailed like 5 games in a row perfectly, and you're complaining about one bad draw. Come on. So I have no doubt he thinks it's powerful. I do agree it is, but let's go into game number 1 and see what this matchup has in store, because I'm seeing also not only in GM, but also more and more on ladder, more and more Zoo.
Yes, it definitely does seem to be finding its spot in the metagame, with, you know, good reason. I think it was, given the shift that we have, if you consider like Quest Druid the substitute in for Reno Mage with the expansion, with the nerfs to Pocket Galaxy and Conjurer's Calling, because it's become, alongside Warrior, the most popular deck. Zoo does function very, very nicely against the Quest Druid. I think you can just go for plays like this, where the Druid has nothing. Look at how this game is shaping out.
Let's rewind time. Main question, and maybe deciding factor of this game already, should Glory have actually just Wrathed on 2, Ferocious Howled on 3, he ends up getting his quest, you know, a while away, but he does have Nourish, he does have Starfall, so he could have spent a few turns removing and done the quest later, or he could have gone down the route he's gone down now and just committed and said, no, I am going to get the quest to go off. Almost no matter what, and get punched in the face a few times, let Zeus stack up, and I honestly don't really know the answer to this question, because throughout my time playing Druid, I've gone for the more defensive option. I just Wrathed on 2. I mean,
honestly, I was even looking for Wrath on 1, coin Wrath the Flame just to get rid of it straight away, and then you can go Quest on 2, which still gets an activation ticking off. And it obviously means he would not be heading towards Starfall on turn 5, which is a huge downside, of course.
But the problem is, does Starfall really dig him out of this problem? I don't
think so. He's obviously trying to set that up as best as possible by killing off a 3 health minion. But I think Alutemu is going to be, well, he's going to be suspected of one of 2 things: Oasis Surger and Starfall. And those are the only 2 things that can mess him up.
Yeah, and you play around what you can play around, right? So if he plays, he could actually just Thrasher, attack, and then sacrifice an Imp if he wanted to. then the Thrashers would be on 6, which don't die to Oasis.
So how does this work out? He deals 10 damage this turn, so if 4 damage survives, he wins. So if he plays the Oasis, if he plays the Thrasher...
He can do more though, right? Because he would attack with 1
Right.
imp,
I'm
then-
just wondering if he
okay.
has to.
Sorry.
So without doing that, he does 10 damage, which means Thrasher played Starfall alone would not keep Glory alive. Starfall plus Anubisath Defender would, which is, I think, a stronger reason to go Grim Rally. Because also, if he attacks face, plays the Thrasher, and then I guess taps or whatever, Oasis Surger also does not save Glory. So if he plays just goes tap Thrasher, only Starfall plus Anubisath Defender would keep Glory alive.
Yeah, but I think there is no reason
Is it worth
to do
playing
that.
around?
I think I would just Grim Rally and be like, there is nothing that deals with this board.
Yeah.
Take a bit of damage himself, but frankly, who cares? Alutemu doesn't. And Glory's got the option, but Oasis Surger does nothing now. Kills a 4-3 and leaves 2 5-6s on the board.
It's just game.
Yeah, that's it. And this is and honestly, it's easy for me to say it now.
Yeah.
But this is what I felt like games look like when I don't just hard remove against such an aggressive deck.
Yeah.
It's what I feel like. Oh, greedy because I'll be able to recover. No, you won't. You'll be dead. And like that's often what's happened to me. And we see Alutemu take a lightning game #1, but this is how we're going to continue to see the meta develop because Druid touted as just like not only extremely powerful deck, but I think versus difficulty to execute versus power level, one of the best decks we've ever seen, maybe actually, because you can just kind of just go with the flow and do powerful things like win. But 1 to 5 feels so lackluster that any aggro deck can do that. Zoo, very consistent and has one of the highest damage outputs in general.
Yeah.
But that's a common factor, and the Druid just have to change.
It's true, and I think it's well positioned by Alutemu to realize that that's what his lineup is trying to do with Zoo and Priest, both of which are fantastic decks against the Druid. I would say 2 of the worst matchups for Quest Druid around, and then obviously Control Warrior, still debatable. I think some people say it's favored, some people say it's unfavored. We'll have to see how that shakes out. But Alutemu clearly trying to target this Druid quite heavily, which makes it, I don't know, a little bit surprising to me from Glory that we saw him line it up first.
Well,
maybe I was expecting to see the Priest or the Warlock instead.
Yeah, I think already there's a lot to talk about for this series, but for now that was game #1 done. We're going to step away just for a second while we start game #2. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back.
Rising again, darker than they've ever been. As evil descends from the skies, the world cries out, how will we survive? Out of the hall of explorers, and up from the dusty tombs, they grab their whips and fedoras. These legends of the past know exactly what to do. There might be magic monsters, mummies in the market. Mysticism. There should be scorching deserts, and there should master of narcissism. How states think annihilation, obliteration of civilization. Now is the time to be brave. Evil's come to enslave, but this league's gonna save the world.
Hearthstone Esports is home to many competitive formats, each with their own unique variants and rules. Today, we're going to break down one of them, the Shield Phase Conquest format. And here's how it works. To start, both players bring 4 decks, each from a unique class. The match starts with a Shield Phase. This is where both players choose one of their own decks to protect, making it ineligible to be banned. Once the Protect phase has ended, both players will then ban one of their opponent's decks, removing it from the pool. Each player then selects which of their remaining decks they would like to play first before beginning the first game of the series. When the first game of the series is over, the winner's deck is removed from their pool of eligible decks. Both players then select the next deck they would like to play. The loser of the first game can choose to replay with the deck they lost with, or they can choose one of their other 2 available decks. In best of 3 conquests, the first player to 2 wins is the victor. In best of 5 series, such as those in the semifinals or finals of major events, The first player that makes it to 3 wins takes the W. It's that easy. Shield Phase Conquest allows players to showcase their skill set across different classes, while still giving them the opportunity to play the deck they're most confident with. Now that you've got the download on Shield Phase Conquest, we wish you well on your deck building adventures.
We're diving straight back into game number 2 here, and Alutemu versus Glory. Alutemu taking a very quick win. Not too much to say about at least Alutemu's side of the game, because I think his zoo play was very straightforward. But Glory just keeps questioning. I just want to see what happens with Druid, because is this going to just stay as an acceptable thing as Druid if you go against aggro? Do you just accept that you lose sometimes on turn 6? I don't know, but I know the Druid I've been playing a lot of has Doomsayers in it, which helps a little bit against those decks, because not a lot of decks have a good answer to Doomsayer right now. But anyway, we are going to be moving on. Alutemu's going to play his shielded class, which is his Warrior, going up against Glory's Druid once again, and we get to jump back into this matchup and kind of just discover at least these two players' takes on it, because most decks now just have a different opinion based on every single pro you ask.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to just see how different people play different games.
Yeah, the debate rages on with Warrior versus Druid, at least in Asia Pacific, by far the 2 most popular archetypes that we're seeing here in Control Warrior and Quest Druid. A couple of aggro warriors knocking around, but for this matchup in particular, it seems to me, having watched a bit of the European region yesterday where the Warriors were dominating against the Druid, compared to Asia Pacific we've been casting where the Druids have been dominating the Warriors, it seemed to me like the key to the matchup was that an aggressive start doesn't win you the game. But what it does do is it means that if you are magnetizing Ziliax onto an Omega Devastator or getting down an early Armadillo, something like that, the Oasis Surgers have to just trade in, and they have to trade inefficiently.
Yeah.
And that means that you don't get run over in the mid game, because that's where the Warriors were losing in the matches we were casting, is it wasn't even Chef Nomi or King Feoris or Zephyr.
I don't think we saw Chef Nomi played once.
Exactly, it wasn't that. It was just Oasis, Surger, Cenarius, Falupa Cenarius, all that stuff. The Warrior could not keep up.
Honestly, for me, I just keep wondering, is King Feoris actually that good? Because when I've seen it come down, yeah, it's a 1-card army, so maybe that pure fact is just enough, even if the minions aren't mind-blowing. But especially against Warrior, like 4 and 5 drops are what Warrior kind of eats most of the time, so it never feels hyper impactful, especially because the minion itself is only a 5/5. So we'll see how it plays out here as we move on to towards that turn 5 for Glory.
Yeah, personally I am a fan of King Feoris, because I think that with this deck, one of the things you have to be really careful about is taking out any more threats from the deck, because if you actually run through the deck, there's not that much meat on the bones of the Druid deck at the moment. It doesn't have a lot of big threats in the game. Like, it's Oasis Surger is by far the biggest mid-game threat, and then you're playing Anubis Defender, Hidden Oasis. That's kind of it in the mid-game. Yeah. It's all just draw and remove.
And I'll be the first to admit, I am still very just locked into Mali versions of this deck, which makes me just feel better, because you can just kill Warrior, and I don't think it's even that much of a problem.
Yeah.
But we will see how this plays out now. Is Glory getting hold of the Panther there? just means he has something on the board, right? Which is before turn 5, which is often quite nice. It means that Alutemu can't just do whatever he wants turns 1 to 5. But let's see how it plays out now. He could just slam a Dynamatic.
Interestingly enough, Power of the World was one of the highest win rate cards of Druid against Warrior.
Oh, really?
In the Mulligan, which I found quite interesting.
Huh.
At least when I was looking at it last night. And I think that one of the reasons why does speak to the fact, as I was saying, that if the Warrior can pull ahead with early tempo early on, the Druid struggles to efficiently deal with that and to keep up in the mid game. And I think maybe the fact that the Panther does help you to trade with the 1-drops, it kills off the first half with snip snap.
Gets the
keeps
annoying
things-
stuff out of the way, doesn't
Exactly, keeps you even until Oasis Surgeon can come down.
I must choose.
Light the fuses!
I wonder if he was considering Mummy there. But I think this ends up working.
Kind of. I mean, you're expecting it to get munched by an Oasis Surgeon, no matter what you do there. But I think
Well, I was thinking like the Mummy trades, then you have a 1-2 and a 3-1. If your opponent swipes, great. And if the opponent plays Surger, then the Surger attacks goes down to 2, the other one goes down to 4.
Yeah.
Maybe you can get away with the Dynamatic afterwards.
No tune can hold
starting to
me!
look pretty rough for Alutemu here, as he has 100% not had the early pressure at all.
Luciana double team Warden and boom.
Very slow stuff, which is not necessarily, signing his own death warrant quite yet, because he still has the ability to keep up, I would say, in the mid game. These Tomb Wardens will help to not be too threatening. But the problem is, with Glory's list, actually, I wonder, because Glory's not playing the Chef Nomi. He's only got King Feoris at the top end, so it's a relatively light, more anti-aggressive list. So maybe the fact that Alutemu can just trade evenly for a while, use one of these brawls early on to deal with the big minions, the second remaining brawl may just be enough for Alutemu. I think this is going to be close.
Yeah, this shield slam and brawl to bridge a gap, isn't there? And
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's where I kind of fall over a little bit with this style of Druid specifically. It's just because it's so straightforward. Warrior can just be like, okay, I'll shield slam this, which means I've got brawl for the next thing, and you can just almost guarantee what that next thing is going to be. Like you said, you go into turn 5 and you just
Know what
plan
it
for
is.
Oasis Surgeon.
Yeah.
If it's not, sweet. If it is, you're fully planned
Yeah.
and prepped as well as possible for it. So you're ready. You know, there's no questions.
Right, and that's the problem I had with Glory's playstyle last time, is,
Right.
He knew that he was setting up for a very powerful Starfall, but Alutemu knew exactly that, so he knew he made an inefficient play with the Grim Rally, but it was
Right.
enough. He knew
Yeah,
that he had won the
because he
game
just-
100%.
It's checkmate.
Yeah. Apart from, 3 Anubisat defenders or something ridiculous like that.
I think armor up shield slam is just alright, yeah. I don't think it can be a Plague turn. Plague's way too good later. And you also just don't want to leave a 6/6, because then what if it gets buffed and then, so on. Like, just clear it off. It's one minion, it's an awkward shape, gone.
Yeah.
You keep a 3/1, put some damage onto Glory. Yes, it's not the best turn in the world, but definitely not the worst.
I think the one thing he was considering there, which I quite liked, was if he can set up for a brawl in the next turn or two.
Right.
Well, specifically next turn to go into Dr. Boom on 9, because if he leaves this Hidden Oasis minion alive and then Glory overdevelops afterwards, then he's pretty happy to use the brawl there. But I think in this matchup, you don't want to make it necessary to brawl, even if your opponent's
Right.
overextending.
You've got
you want
plenty
to
of
save
stuff to
it.
brawl later on.
Exactly,
right?
yeah. These brawls are absolute gold.
It's not the
dust
Warrior
in the
Mirror,
matchup.
where you just take a brawl where you can get one a lot of the time.
Which is something we saw from Rivius yesterday, which I liked a lot.
Yeah, and this is... Oof. Glory, I mean, don't get me wrong, gaining mana, drawing loads of cards, gaining armor,
Yeah.
great things, but he just kind of gave Alutemu a free turn.
He did.
And
to,
now...
to develop.
Yeah, and because of Alutemu's hand, we can see that benefits Alutemu
Yeah.
greatly. Because...
It's just the perfect setup to go into Dr. Boom as well.
Yeah.
I almost wonder next turn if, because Admirable was talking about this a lot yesterday, and I found it very interesting, of like tempo Elysiana. And usually I think you didn't go for it because there were too many key cards you needed to find. Alutemu's got like every key card in the matchup.
Double Brawl,
Double
Plague,
Brawl, Boom.
yeah.
Exactly. And even Plague as well. Like, these are all the key removal
Boom
cards.
can often activate Plague is the trick. 'Cause
Exactly.
Obviously, there's no Warpath, right? Which
Yeah.
is perfect. But Boom can often, most of his hero powers activate Plague in some way.
Right, Kaboom and the Microbots are both fantastic.
Even the
for that.
Zap, if you need to kill a big dude, right? You know, even Zap
Yeah.
technically does. And Mechs having Rush help as well.
And I think it's still probably not Elysiana next turn because it's just kind of like less useful than
Yeah.
playing Dr. Boom while you're undefended. Oh, sorry, while you are defended. But I don't know. I wouldn't hate to see at some point the just the War Golem come down.
Especially after seeing the Starfall.
Very nice swing for
And it's actually pretty sick because if the trade happens, yeah, so now that's kind of good for Alutemu for Boom. Because he plays Boom into a 4-attack minion. Who cares, right?
Yeah.
But also, because Alutemu's not played anything, well, Glory has to develop. If he doesn't develop, even better for Alutemu.
Yeah.
If he does develop, Alutemu has Brawl. So, and now an Omega Devastator. So it's just insane.
You do want to be a little bit hesitant with Cenarius in this matchup.
For Flute.
Not necessarily for Flute, but just to try and buff more minions. But I was wondering if we ever saw Hidden Oasis on the minion there, because it still heals it up out of range of the hero power.
The problem is if you stay that small on the board, rush mechs are going to beat you.
True.
Like, that's the problem. Like, they're so efficient now.
Yeah. And I don't hate this at all. It just means that the follow-up afterwards for Glory again looks like it's going to be quite weak.
One thing that could happen, though,
Having said that, he's got,
Sorry?
Nourish plus Hidden Oasis next turn as well, which
Yeah.
should be a reasonable development onto the board.
one thing that could happen as well is Zephyrus can just snipe wins, right? And look at this board. If this board gets to attack, and then you can play Zephyrus with, Bloodlust, Savage Roll, whatever. That's it's an insane amount. You might just die, which is often. I was talking to you earlier. I keep wondering why decks that kind of want to be aggressive are playing Highlander style. But Zephyrus is literally a one-card win condition, which is crazy. Like it just gets there, and it makes almost any situation you can either turn it around or finish the game. And I think we're going to continue to see this. I wouldn't even mind the Devastator. Just clear it off. Next, you have rushing Wardens next turn.
Yeah.
Ziliax next turn to attach to the Devastator. You've got a good hero power as well. Like this is all.
This is definitely a way to take a punch. Lovely turn. And this is the situation where Alutemu needs to start being a little bit afraid. This is what happens when you don't get that early tempo early on. It's because they still have these minions like Oasis Surgeon, nice and healthy, and now he's thinking, okay, do I have to use another Brawl hit just to clear this up?
But I think that draw makes it
This
better.
would be a good time for a master.
Armagadillo buffing Celiax and Tomb Warden. You get the armor up.
Sure.
And next turn, again, like I said, Glory probably plays more on the board. Next turn, you just brawl. Like, let's see what his hero power is. His hero power is going to be pretty clutch this turn.
I mean, I think it's very possible that we're looking at a Plague of Wrath next turn even.
That's why I was interested about the hero power.
Yeah.
Because one of the benefits of Kaboom is it's only enemies, so it means that you can often do a one-sided Plague of Wrath, which you kind of beat the problem.
There's the king. Just needs to find Floopadoop now. Does Glory to really start wrestling this back and present some consistent waves of pressure.
What I like this though, just Loti trade, push 60.
Yep. It
Get rid
pushes
of
the
that.
most amount of damage, and it keeps your minions undamaged themselves in the case of Plague of Wrath. Do you think it's big enough for a brawler?
Yeah, I mean, if not,
I think the thinking is for Glory here, a reason for Crystal Merchant is if Brawl does come down here, you know, King Feoris next turn would mean that he would have to have another Brawl to answer this, and then also a Warpath and a Plague of Wrath. And when there's only half the deck drawn, I think it's reasonable to assume that if you just go pressure, pressure, pressure for the next 3 turns, I think it's better to go all in quickly than just do a few threats at a time and just allow Alutemu to go, you know, Tomb Warden or Ziliax or something like that and take it too slow. I think I like this. Because even this board doesn't necessarily demand a Brawl. Alutemu could go for the Tomb Warden here.
he could.
And it wouldn't be that bad.
I think the frustration with the Tomb Warden is the 2 things it attacks into is bad.
Yeah, I guess
it's poison
it's 5
and you
attack.
can't kill
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Well, with a hero power, you can take out the poison.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's
Like double trade into
just
a 6 attack.
understated. Yeah. Fair enough. Okay, I guess this probably does demand a Brawl. Yeah, perfectly reasonable here for Alutemu.
I wonder if he plays Ziliax instead.
Oh, I think I prefer the Dynamatic, right?
Well, Dynamatic into Plague isn't terrible.
It's true, I guess, but I think Ziliax has been so fantastic. Not even for the hero power, sorry, not even just for the heal, but for the annoying-sized body. The Divine Shield is such a disruptance.
Oh well, there's 2 waves of King Feros and the Zephyrus is live, so Glory now has to deconstruct exactly how and when he wants to develop these waves of minions against Alutemu. And Alutemu is looking a little bit short on the hand size count.
Your wish is my suggestion.
Right after a brawl.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
wants a Tyrion.
Put your faith in the light.
He's just putting one more wave first.
Is he valuing like Tyrion maybe into Tyrion? I don't know.
I don't think you'd ever go Tyrion over King. He might just be waiting for more spells. I think there's still another Starfall in the deck. And perhaps another Swipe.
Chikori Rover looks fantastic to me.
Over the Tomb Warden?
Potentially.
It's definitely tempting.
Because remember, he's still got 2 Warpaths.
That's true. Yeah, that is true.
And,
played the Omega
and 1 Starfall's gone, so there's no good way really, or not likely to have a good way to clear off a lot of taunts.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a last ditch taunt wall, maybe? Maybe Tomb Warden on average just works out better. What we
being
both
able to
agree on
Tomb
is
Warden hero power in a turn
it's
is
the
so
card
nice.
that has the highest rarity. It's the card that has the highest rarity of not being picked as well. Or the highest amount of not picked, because no one would pick Mortuary Machine.
It's like 5 double negatives to say Mortuary Machine sucks.
I like to play around with words sometimes.
We have fun here in Grandmasters.
This would be a good time for a mares to play.
Whoa, goes to the Tomb Warden again. Clearly indecisive.
So the problem now, when you have Floop in hand and only a set amount of threats, is Glory. Alutemu won't know this, but Glory kind of has to play a little bit one-dimensional. Because if you value a second Tyrion way lower than the Pharos, then he has to play Pharos. And if he has to play Pharos, I mean, his next minion he has to play also has to be the 4 mana of the Pharos.
Wow, that is one of the mechs. The Oblivitron and the Tasty Fin are both absolutely terrible. Thankfully for him, however, Alutemu does not have the Warpath to answer this, but he does have a pretty spicy looking hero power
Better
Plague.
than Warpath.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
The stuff that dreams are made of.
And he just gets to push 8. Yeah. Enjoy your King Pharos.
Yeah, that's actually just pretty insane.
It's the one side. This play card is fine because it hurts both sides. But if
yeah. This does mean, of course, that that is the last hard piece of removal that Alutemu had access to. So we're now looking at getting rid of a big King Pharos board the difficult way, the old-fashioned way of just plowing through it.
But remember though, there's still 2 Warpaths.
Exactly.
There's
So
still 2 Warpaths.
he could get through that.
And are these rolls going to be any better? A little bit.
Ooh, Oh, yeah, that's
Little bit.
significantly better. History buff, not amazing, mainly
Has
just...
to be. Wait, is that just all the threats?
Yeah,
That's the whole deck.
it's the whole deck. That's what I mean. This is why I don't
I'm so
like
confused.
going any lighter
Yeah.
than King Feoris, because Cenarius, Feoris, Floop, everything's gone now. This has to get there.
And it doesn't.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it.
I mean, okay, Ashbringer's 15 damage. We always need to remember that. So that's 15 damage. The swipe for more. So maybe if Glory somehow gets to swing once with this board,
Yeah.
and this is why it confused me, right? To me, Zephyrus first, into then Tyrion, into Fiora. Like, does that honestly get you there?
Yeah.
Whereas I think King Fioris, and then King Fioris, and then Zephyrus, Bloodlust.
Savage. Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, boom, dead.
like
Like
that
that,
more as well.
feels like a way more consistent plan.
Yeah. Because the problem was that when he went Tyrion, the Tyrion survived, which is, I guess, mission accomplished. That's what he wanted to happen.
He
Was the
pushes
Tyrion to
6.
survive. Exactly, but that wasn't the case because it was just a taunt wall set up. And then he's thinking, if I play my spells, my Feoris gets weaker.
This would be
And
a
if I
good
play
Right.
the King Feoris, I'm playing into Brawl.
Right. It's
Or to a
yeah.
Plague of Wrath.
I feel like in this deck, I way prefer like Zephyrus into Tyrion is when Zephyrus was like your last card and you've already had your big boards
Yeah.
cleared and you go right
Especially as...
home stretch. You know, Tyrion, get me there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like when
This
when
would
you've
be a
had...
good time for a
He had
master
King Feoris in hand for a couple of turns where he didn't go for it, and then as soon as it was the complete mirror power, then he went off, which is the worst possible time to go in, because it just opens up the best
I
player
honestly think I would have preferred like Zephyrus, Floop Zephyrus into something else. You know, if you want to like
I don't know about
extend
that.
value, because
I think King Feoris by far is the most value. Because if you go Blue Zephyrus, which is 4 mana, it's going to offer you Savannah Highmane, which is decent.
but you could potentially just use up your mana. It offers you like a Ysera or something turn after. I don't know. I'm just saying what I didn't like was Zephyrus to Tyrion in this matchup.
Does mean, however, that he's pushing a reasonable little bit of damage for the moment. And he's saying, you know what, you are all out of threats. I'm calling the bluff on your part. You just don't have it.
And like I said, don't get me wrong, the Ashbringer's a hell of a weapon, and it's still the swipe, so there is enough damage, definitely. But it's one more clear, one more stabilization turn. Was that Warpath?
That was Warpath, but it doesn't clear the board. And with 16 damage, I believe, represented with Swipe Weapon, and 7 damage off the Mechanical Dragon.
So he can Eternium Rover into
for a master
Silly Axe.
plan.
Yep, with a couple of Frightened Flunkies as well.
Play Frightened Flunkies, yeah, and just get stuff. Maybe get some more taunts.
That sounds good to me.
And then maybe after that, the Warpath does something the turn after.
Exactly.
And he heals as well. And gains armor. So yeah, I think that's everything Alutemu wants to do. This is the final hurdle though. He could fall over here.
Absolutely.
Alutemu ran a good race, but he could trip over the last one.
It might be just enough of a threat. And this is the delicate balance we're talking about, because Alutemu was forced to use both brawls fairly early instead of trading with minions because he didn't get that high pressure start.
Yeah, but it's less delicate balance and more that card being exactly mechanical wealth. That is real, because
That is true.
if that was just a normal 6-drop, it probably dies to Warpaths, and then there's a problem, right?
Alutemu indecisive here. Wait, laughing to himself. It looks like he messed up here.
I don't like any of these things that just happened.
I dislike greatly what just happened.
That was just...
Is that just a
that's
throw?
Yeah, Alutemu's just thrown that game away. For no
Please
reason.
Swipe.
Hey, I'm
Game's
just
over.
going to tell... I'm not even going to count and say he's
What?
thrown the game. That...
He had the ability to survive.
And it wasn't even
Easily.
that bad of a turn.
Yeah.
He could have had 2/2/2 taunts. He would have had what? A 4/5 taunt with lifesteal and have gained some health and armor.
Well, not even that. Even if he'd just gone 5 Warpaths, he would have survived at 1 health. And I still think that wasn't the best thing he could have done that turn.
Definitely not. He knows this is a swipe, right?
Yeah.
But
Well, he knows exactly what there is in hand.
exactly. So that was shocking, actually. That is disappointing as someone we've talked a lot about who has played so well last season to just blunder a turn. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, he didn't even finish the turn. Never mind.
He
had a
didn't,
bad one.
and that's the thing about
Right.
Alutemu is he played very, very good Hearthstone last season, but it was really close to being really bad Hearthstone because he was messing with the rope the entire
Right.
time, and he was confident enough, I think, with the Cyclone Mage, which is what he was primarily playing last season, the Specialist. He was confident enough with it to get it done. He was just getting the actions in time, whereas now switching over to the Control Warrior, which he's maybe a little bit less practice with or a bit unsure about specifically with the Druid matchup, and all of a sudden, he's struggling to get the turns in, and there were multiple better plays that turn that at minimum left him alive.
Well, the thing is, the Ziliax play would have definitely left him alive because it heals and it's a taunt and so on and so on. So it looked pretty okay, or at least it looked like it would keep him alive at that point.
I'm pretty sure it would have done.
And there's also two taunts in the way, not that easy to deal with in general for Druid. And also, just finishing your turn is better than not. And I feel like Alutemu just fumbled completely and threw that game away. He might have lost anyway. Wow, he definitely lost doing that. Let's move on though. 1-1, Alutemu and Glory. Glory's going to go for the Priest, Alutemu's sticking with this Warrior. And this matchup is just another weird one. I don't really know what to think because a lot of people say, oh, Warrior, they just kill the Priest stuff in this game. But sometimes Warrior doesn't draw the cards to kill the early Priest stuff, and the Priest punches them for like 20, and then it might be game over then. So what do you think of this one?
I think it's a really interesting dynamic between the two decks, and I agree that the perception is just that the Warrior kills all the stuff.
The Warrior has removal, Priest needs stuff to stay.
Yes, and I think that's part of the matchup, but the other thing where the Priest really struggles, in my opinion, is when the Warrior gets ahead on board, which is becoming more and more of a possibility now with the recent builds of the Warrior, where you obviously have all the one-drops, Snip Snap, Flunkies thrown in there, Armageddillo, Ziliax. Like, it can just curve out 1 through 8 very easily with this deck, playing pretty much perfect mana utilization all the way through, and that is when the Priest really struggles.
Well, let's see how it goes. 1-1. Last game for the series and for the point on the board. If Glory wins, he'll go 3-1. Not a bad start at all to Grandmasters, weekend number 2. But if Alutemu loses, he's going to go 1-3, which is terrible.
Yeah, definitely not where he wants to be, as he was on the cusp of qualifying through to BlizzCon later on in the year, and he'll want to have another good shot at it. By getting up to a decent score here, like the mulligan a lot there from Alutemu, I think Restless Mummy is a card that is oft thrown away erroneously, in my opinion, because you want to draw it off of the Town Crier, of course. It's a cheated out effect. It's very, very strong in the deck. But in this matchup, in my opinion, it's so paramount to your game plan, tantamount to your game plan, that you really just want to make sure that it's coming in as often as possible, because every Priest minion has 3 health. Pretty much like every single one, apart from the...
Any ones you're afraid of.
Exactly, apart from Amet. But even then, it really helps you to deal with an Amet, because you only need 1 extra damage to get rid of it. So I like the keep there.
One thing I struggle with is the Priest mulligan. I think it's well hard. Apart from obvious,
hard.
if you have Cleric and, 2-drop, great.
Yeah.
And obviously, yes, that's fine. But then, I was looking at Psychopomp and thinking, when that's played on 4, that's insane.
Nuts. Yeah.
And then Glory threw it because he didn't have any other minions. I agree with the Silence Throw, of course. You don't need anything early game like that. But in general, I would have considered Psychopomp.
Yeah, I think generally just, there are certain like weird cards that you can consider keeping, like obviously Circle of Healing if you have an injured Blade Master, okay, or a Cleric, okay, you can start to consider it. But for the most part, you really just want to be able to curve out. Like this deck, I think, has a lot of kind of mystery. It's shrouded in mystery, it feels like, because it's called Combo Priest. It's a combo deck. You don't just want to curve out. Whereas for the most part, it's a pretty linear deck. You just want to be curving out as much as you can.
It's also a bit of a, I'll say, weird build, mainly because we're used to European builds. But like double Silent, double Topsy-Turvy, there's only one drop in the deck, which is the 2 Clerics. And then the rest of the deck's just a little bit later as to Witchwood Piper. But because of these double Topsy, double Silence, there's just no other 1-drop. So your opening is way less consistent.
Yeah, I think, Hunter Ace's version of the deck, I hate to keep coming back to him, but it seems to be working out well for him with 1 Samdi thrown in there, very interestingly.
I just like more chance at playing a 1-drop on 1.
Me too.
Because the deck is so snowbally.
That's when the deck pulls
that
ahead.
if you run literally just 2 1-drops, like,
Yeah.
the Warrior runs more early game than you.
Like you can see
in this matchup, which is crazy.
you
Like,
can see why they're disincentivized from playing too many 1-drops with the extra arms nerf. Like I can see their thinking. I still, however, am of the opinion that it is worth.
yeah, I agree.
Just going with all the 1-drops.
And now, this, although all you will remember from Priest is being punched for like 20 plus damage randomly and you dying, this is questions.
Big time.
How the heck do you play this turn? He could heal and then make a 2-12 Tolve, which
Yeah.
is scary, and Warrior most of the time can't deal with it.
I've got more left in
I like this play a
He
lot.
could hold Divine Spirits completely and do
Yeah.
something else like this.
I think the two players.
He could put health on the Acolyte and
Yeah,
try
yeah.
and draw more cards. It's so many weird options that I think have such heavy impact to the game.
The
It's
two,
crazy.
the two plays I was looking at were Wild Pyro plus Divine Spirit, I think, to draw a card, but upon closer inspection, I don't really like that because I think both copies of Divine Spirit can be pretty crucial against Warrior. You don't want to go for that unless you have no other way to draw cards and nothing else to do. And if he was going to heal either of the two minions, I really like the heal on the 3 health Tolve instead of the 4 health one, because if you heal up the 4 health one to 6, it's being taken out very cleanly by a Restless Mummy, whereas this way it's a little bit more awkward with
It's
the
horrible.
health totals.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think
It's
it's,
just
a
unfun.
good realization of the situation he was in and what he has to play around, and he's done that very well here with a board that is likely to survive for at least a couple other turns.
Tough turn from Alutemu.
Very tough turn.
Does he ever just get the weapon equipped
What now?
and then try and like combine the turn 5s next turn into a way to remove stuff?
I wonder if he's considering Coin Brawl, just to get rid of the Acolyte as often as possible.
Like with this, I think this is just saying this is a bad turn.
Yeah.
But this plus Ziliax, this plus the or plus the Dynamatic, so on, plus the Restless Mummy
Yeah.
might actually end up being a good turn next turn.
Glory's taking it slow as anything here. I was looking pretty
Get to
heavily
draw.
at the Pyro Silence there just to get things rolling. I mean, I know it damages your board, which I guess is a little bit scary around Warpath, because it's a difficult balance here. Like, damaging your entire board just to draw a card isn't necessarily good for Glory. He needs to make sure that he's keeping these minions on the board, because I think it's reasonable to assume that if this board dies, you're never having board control again. for the rest of the game.
And the problem is, you've got to remember, he just loses to Plague. That's it. If he damages the board, and now just like, thanks, friend. Boom, Plague,
Why
gone.
not? Yeah.
Like, it's so dangerous. And now that this is where we see the, I say, kind of payoff, where I feel like Alutemu this turn now has a much better handle on what's going on.
I think Glory can have a pretty good read on there being no Plague, however, because if there was Plague, I think Alutemu would be pretty happy to swing into the full health Tolve, which would draw the Acolyte one
card, and
card,
then just get rid.
and then get rid of everything. Exactly.
Or is that what he wants Glory to think?
I mean,
but yeah, no,
maybe.
I do agree. I'm only joking.
it does get more deep than that, because maybe he's thinking, if Glory has Psycho, he doesn't want to kill off the Tolve to activate the Psycho.
And there's been no health buffs, right?
Right.
So, or not many, so nothing's really been committed.
Now with the
Well,
pickup of Topsy-Turvy. It's getting interesting now. Double Divine Spirit Topsy-Turvy at any point from here on in can just represent lethal.
It's the next turn.
Yeah.
It's
Pretty nutty. And I think Alutemu will be starting to smell a rat. Something's not quite right here.
well, he can put the mummy in twice and then hit it, and it will kill off both and just leave a 3-1 on the board.
That's true.
It seems
very
good
tempting.
to me, and then you just drop the hero power.
If he was just to play Ziliax, he would die.
There's no world in which I would, if I was Alutemu, I would want this Injured Tolve alive at the end of this turn.
Yeah.
No world. That's how you lose these games.
If he goes Dynamatic, is Dynamatic just to damage it good enough?
Probably.
I think in this instance it actually...
But then you don't get to
Wouldn't
armor
be.
up. Does that make a difference?
Like the music!
So there's 2, 4, 5. He
Oh, it was 24
Wait,
damage,
dead.
but now it's
Dead.
just lethal.
That's and again, this has happened a lot already today.
Yeah.
We're in
You
series
wanted to
1,
just clear it off.
but I cannot leave a minion alive on 8 potential health.
Yeah.
When my opponent has like 5 cards.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you could just lose his mummy. Oh no!
It's so
Like,
difficult. Like,
it's-
are you just letting Caster Vision get to yourself here? It's difficult to realize.
Oh
that.
no, because I played way too safe against Priest.
Well, because, for example, you know, maybe Alutemu had a completely different read. It's 2 cards in the start of his hand that haven't been played. Maybe he's thinking, you know, Psychopomp or Amet or something like that, which gets a strong board presence going. And then he's thinking, okay, if I can just get this Dynamatic on the board, it sets up for next turn, value trade with the Dynamatic, then you play the Mummy. You're value trading in and getting a lot of kills on the board.
I guess it depends on thoughts on how you play the matchup. Congratulations to Glory, by the way, for the win. Of
Yeah,
course,
well
we're just so interested in the way it's played. But for me, I feel like you don't have to be fancy against Priest.
I
You
think
keep
you're
the plan simple.
Yeah.
If a minion has potentially 8 health, and you can just kill it with just using a mummy, and it's dead, well, even if Psychopomp reses it, it's annoying, but it can't attack, and then you have other stuff to do the following turn, and so on, and it hasn't got the max health. So things could have gone wrong, but the later you make things potentially go wrong against Priest, the more chance you've got of just winning anyway. So I think I would have been far too afraid of that potential death there if I was Alutemu. I'm not saying it was strictly wrong, but I always like to, if I can clear something that looks like it might be dangerous off the board, I normally do.
I think I agree with you. There's a couple of reasons why as well. I think that the fact that if he had gone for a big Tolvid there that hadn't even killed him, like even if it was just one Divine Spirit in a fire, he didn't have an answer to that. He had no single target removal ready to kill off a big
Mummy
threat
does
like
nothing.
that. Exactly,
Like,
and he
it
had,
doesn't matter.
you know, Execute isn't in the deck, Shield Slam wasn't big enough to get rid of it. And so I think just killing it off and making sure that at best Psychopomp or Amet can come down would have meant that he was, on average, able to take care of the board more easily.
Right. Yeah, and the thing as well is there were other minions that were more, like the Tolvir being rezzed was worst case scenario, right? There could have been a Pyro res, and you're like, great, Dynamatic, gone, you know, like
Yeah.
whatever, like that's fine. Even Acolyte, although obviously a problem for card draw, the card draw doesn't matter against Priest if they don't have a board,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So they can have a full hand, but if they have no board, you cannot die. That's just the way the game works.
And
But
just-
anyway, we could talk about this maybe all day, but
I just want to say overall at the end there, just looking off form there is Alutemu
It was-
compared to what we saw
yeah.
last season. Just to round it out, you know, the blunder at the end that lost him against the Druid, sorry, where he could maybe have clawed his way back in. It's just uncharacteristic from what we saw in Season 1. And I would say the fact that he got to the finals of Season 1 playoffs and then goes down to a score like this in Season 2 is representative of his play in both seasons.
yeah, we will see how that goes on later date now, as we are on the Sunday, last day of this week. But for now,
Yes,
we have
sorry.
Blitz